This special edition of Talking Pints is with somebody who, I mean, legend doesn't even get near it. You can't even, if you're younger, you can't even begin to understand the level of fame this bloke had a couple of years ago. Frank Bruno, welcome.
Welcome to you.
And what a pleasure to meet you.
Cheers.
As someone who's a lifelong boxing fan, and I love the boxing, and I like going to the boxing, to meet you it's a real pleasure.
Cheers, Nigel. It's nice to meet you as well.
Now, back to the beginning. Your parents come, they're part of that Windrush.
Yeah.
1950s
Dad
move.
Dominican, Mum Jamaican.
Mum Jamaican, yeah, that's right. And you're growing up in South London, big family, loads of kids.
Right, yeah.
And we keep hearing these stories about what an awful country we are.
Who says that?
Well, they keep saying, oh, Britain's a terrible, racist hellhole. You know, what was it like growing up in South London?
It was all right growing up in South London, you know what I mean? I think even 1961, when I was born, there was a lot of skinheads and Jamaicans fighting each other, but nothing, one of them things.
One of them things. And Mum and Dad, you know, very important people in your life.
Very, very important. My dad worked in a cake factory. My mum was a district nurse.
Yeah.
So she had her work cut out, but she was a good mum and she was a good nurse as well.
And a Christian.
Christian, yeah, Pentecostal church. Give your heart to Jesus.
Yeah, wow. I tell you what, though, those churches are still very powerful, aren't
they? They make a lot of money.
You know, that's a very cynical comment.
Not cynical, not being. They make it. The congregation once that goes around.
That goes around.
Yeah.
And are you a Christian?
I believe in. There's something out there. You know, I mean, I believe in there's something out there. You know, I believe in God most of my life, and there's something out there.
Yeah, well, I think
they ain't done me wrong.
No, well, I'll tell you what, actually, the whole of our civilization is based on those values, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Now, you were, Frank, I think, a scrapper from the cot, really, weren't you?
What scrapper? I wouldn't go as far as a scrapper. My dad wanted me to be a boxer, you know what I mean, from when I was in the younger days, so I fulfilled his dream, and I was happy about what I'd done and what I achieved, you know?
Well, I think what you achieved was pretty huge, wasn't it, really?
Nigel.
Well, I think it was.
Yeah.
You know, when you were sent away, when you're 12 and you get packed off to a school.
To a school, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, did you feel society had kind of pushed you off a bit?
At first, I couldn't understand my mum being that wicked, but when I left the school and when I got into the school, I realised that she took me away from London, because London was all the bad boys were and whatever, and I had to be sent away from London and to get out of the rat race and what I was living, getting involved with some serious characters, you know. So I'm glad I got sent in. If I had a son and he was young and he was getting out of zinc, I was sent him to a ball stall like that, where they don't mess around and know what they're doing.
Because a lot of people would say, well, if you go to a ball stall, you know, it's a terrible thing. But you're saying, actually, it did you some good.
It was the best thing that could have happened to me.
Really?
Yeah, definitely. Because I was very naive, very young, but I was big for my age and hanging around with bigger elder guys than myself, and they could have leaned me up the wrong tree. I had a half-step brother called Michael, and he had my back and warned them guys against me, but walking the streets, living the life they used to live, it was very dangerous and they're very brave. I couldn't understand it. How they could go in someone's house, how come they can pick someone's pocket or something like that. I'm not being wicked, but if someone done that to your mum, or if someone got into your house, how would you feel?
Yeah.
Something logical, common sense.
So Borstal taught you, what, discipline?
Yeah, everything. Taught me discipline, get up and go, manners. I worked in the old people's home. I was polishing the floor, cutting the grass, cleaning the dog's mess up, cleaning the Aston Martin, cleaning the chicken mess out. Just good things, you know what I mean, away from what I was learning at school.
And obviously getting very, very fit.
Super fit, because the school was heels. Everywhere you went was heels. You come out the classroom, there was heels, you know, and out in the fresh air in Sussex, Heathfield, Broad Oak. You know, if someone knows that, it's really roots countrified.
Beautiful part of the world.
Definitely, yeah.
Beautiful part. Bit different to Wandsworth in many, many ways.
Wandsworth's changed. I went to my old house that my mum had, and the house is worth 1,200,000.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Crazy.
I mean, your dad wanted you to box.
Yeah, he did want me to box, yeah.
And was the school helpful with boxing?
A little bit helpful. What, the ball school?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were very helpful. They were a small, orientated school. and we learned canoeing, camping, boxing, self-defense, judo. Just done so many different things.
It sounds like more kids should go to a school like that, doesn't it?
They had it all sewn up, but if you was naughty, you had to be punished and pay for it. But if you was good, they would treat you and take you out on the boat, jet skiing and squash and tennis. They had all different things there. Yeah, I seriously laugh.
Almost like you're advertising
rugby.
it. You know?
No, it's rugby. Yeah, Oakwood boarding school ain't there no more. It's a private house.
What were you like at rugby?
I wasn't too bad at rugby, but I'm not too kinky. That's too rough for me. I'd rather do boxing.
Hang on. Frank Bruno says rugby's too rough.
Seriously, it's too rough when you get 11 guys coming on top of you. Poking you out. You know what I mean? I'm getting, it's a nice sport, but from a distance.
But you get good at boxing very quickly.
Had no choice.
Go on.
Yeah, I had no choice. That's what the job I had to do. When I was 18, I met a young lady, and then we had a little bit of rumping in the bedroom, and she was producing a baby. So I had to get myself together. And, you know what I mean?
That's where to living.
The baby's not too cheap.
You were the youngest. You know, you were the youngest champion, amateur boxing
champion. Yeah, you know, still stands today.
And you had a great amateur career, but kind of in public consciousness.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember this. You know, Frank Bruno turns pro.
Right.
And suddenly you're winning fight after fight after fight.
Right.
And you're winning them all with knockouts.
Yeah.
Is there some sort of, is that will, that instinct within Frank Bruno to win? Is that what drove you on?
Yeah. It's much more better to win or get punch the guy more harder than he punches you. I'm not that kinky to go in there and tit for tat. When you go in there, you don't pay for overtime, so you're best to get him out as quick as possible and go and learn your trade in the gym, watch fights and whatever. But it's not a sport to be messing around with.
Within a couple of years of you turn, and I remember this, because I'm born just after you, and I remember within a couple of years of you turning pro, suddenly Frank Bruno is a sensation, and people in the pubs are talking about Frank Bruno.
No problem.
And, you know, you say you're winning these fights, you're winning a lot of them very, very quickly indeed.
Not pay for overtime.
And so, that's true, isn't it? You haven't got to go the full distance.
Pay for overtime.
How do you cope? How do you cope? You've been in Borstal, and a few years later, you know, there you are, and, you know, the trademark Harry Carpenter, who you made world famous.
Yeah, he made me famous because he was very good at his job, Harry.
Well, you were both good for each other. You were good for each other.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean, Harry becomes one of the best-known phrases in the English language.
Right.
How does Frank Bruno, a few years out of Borstal, lad from South London, how do you cope with being a star?
I put everything to one side. Being a star, I wouldn't really cast myself as being a star. Just a ducker and diver. I got myself on the ball stool and just put myself into boxing. Left all the business, like the accountant, I had a manager, I had an agent. Put them to do what I had to do. Let me concentrate on the boxing. That's what I'd done.
But you couldn't walk down the street without everyone knowing. You are fairly recognisable.
I'm fairly recognisable. I think the kids now, they're getting a little bit beyond that. They're looking at the computers more than whatever. But I got very, very famous pretty quick.
You did?
Very, very famous
and then I remember vividly, it's 1989.
Yeah.
You're off to Las Vegas.
Yeah.
For this fight against Tyson, and suddenly you are the whole blooming country is talking about the Frank Bruno fight against this guy, and you did hit him, didn't you?
Well, I hit him once and he wobbled like Elvis.
I thought you had him. Yeah, we're all cheering at the telly, you know.
I thought I had him as well, but as soon as he recovered, he punished me and gave me some beatings, Tyson. He was a good fighter, much better than people give him credit for, and a dangerous fighter as well.
You think people don't give him credit for being as good as he was?
He was as good as he was. You've got to go very far to see a world champion at 20. Wiped up he wiped the floor with everything, you know what I mean? So it's very difficult for another. I saw a boxer on Saturday, he looked like as near as what he's going to get to Tyson, but you've got to be a beast to get what he achieved so early.
No. Well, he had his ups and downs, of course, and his problems.
We all have our ups and downs.
We all have our ups and downs.
Yeah.
Everybody has their ups and downs in life. But I guess, for your career, you know, the mid-90s, 95,
Right.
the fight, and there you are.
Yeah.
And suddenly, you're only the third one ever from
Yeah.
this country. It's Frank Bruno, heavyweight boxing champion
Yeah.
of the world.
Right.
You must have dreamt of that when you were a kid.
I'm not too sure if I dreamt of that, you know what I mean? But you do have dreams, that you have plans. The only thing I didn't do of reaching my dreams was get a helicopter. I wanted to get a helicopter to beat the traffic. But it can still be arranged, you know what I think?
How did it feel to be world champion?
It felt very, very good, very, very nice, very sweet, you know what I mean? It weren't for long, but while it lasted, it was very, very sweet.
Well, you know what? You did it. And
Part of history, yeah.
Nobody can ever take that away. And by this time, you're in every Spitting Image sketch. You're in, you know, every panto in the blooming country wants
You
you.
got to duck and dive, man.
Every TV
got to
channel
duck and
wants
dive,
you.
yeah.
I mean,
I had a good manager in Terry Lawless. He was old school, and he taught you the old school way. And he put it on the table. He said to you, this is how you do it, this is how he done it, this is how he successfully done it, and keep up the way. And I've done it, but a lot of boxers are very jealous of me for working hard and being famous on television, but I weren't just famous on television. I had to work at what I achieved.
and you were still training.
All the time I was training. Even now, I'm still training.
And is that sort of a fanatical thing that you
I
have
think
to do?
that fanatical is endorphins, looking after yourself. Sometimes you look at yourself in the mirror and your belly looks like there's a baby dropping in there. You've got to calm it down.
I better sit up straight.
You've got to just look after yourself. It's important to.
No. Well, I mean, you know, a lot of people say, you know, that actually healthy body,
Healthy mind.
healthy mind, and it makes a big difference.
Definitely.
And Frank, you know, you go on boxing, you get hurt a couple of times.
Right.
In the end, like all sportsmen, the day comes you have to
Call it a quick.
call it a day, and that's got to be a bit of a nightmare, isn't it? Really?
It can be a little bit of a nightmare because once you've been involved with the game and meeting people and boxing in front of millions of people, it can get a little bit hard to cope, you know what I mean, and settle down. Anybody what retires from any job, you know, you've got to find something to occupy yourself.
I think that's right. I think the difference is most people retire from jobs much later. Sportsmen, you know, footballers, boxers, whatever, rugby players.
Yeah, very early.
You know, you're suddenly in your 30s.
Don't know where to go.
And you don't know where to go. And Frank, it all sort of, you know, the marriage ends, the career's over, you've messed about with some of this stuff you shouldn't have done, you know it. And suddenly it all goes wrong. Suddenly, I mean, is it loneliness? Is it what is it?
Know.
I mean, you know,
when you're married and you've got a nice girl and you and her fall out, and then he's talking about lawyers and the lawyers' bills and whatever. Everything comes tumbling down. But sometimes you go through phases. You can't win everything. You can't be on top all the time. You've got to take the rough with the smooth.
No. But your up was a lot further up than most human beings.
It was, but my feet was always down on the ground. It could be up as high as it wants to get, but my feet were down on the ground all the time. Keep on a level.
And when it all, you know, sort of kind of falls to bits in 2003,
everything you do, you go through some sort of like drama.
The worst thing is when you go through a horrible period.
Yeah.
And your section, you're taken off to Wood Maze and all the rest of it.
Right.
Trouble is, Frank Bruno, the whole world's looking, isn't it?
Yeah, no problem. I'm no different than anybody else.
No, but the difference.
Drinking, mate.
Yeah, to dig in. No, the difference is everyone has ups and downs.
Yeah.
And bad times and things in life they'd rather didn't happen. But you're at this level of fame where this whole bad time, really bad time that you're going through, and you know, the Sun are writing big front page headlines that really aren't very nice.
Part of life, you got the rough with the smooth. Sometimes in life you can't expect everything to go hunky dory. Sometimes you got to go for the rough to appreciate the smooth. So yes, no problem at all.
A lot of people, a lot of sportsmen, a lot of actors resent the press.
I don't resent the press. They're there to help you get where you want to get. So you can't really knock them when they find faults in you. Because you won't be right in not taking the rough with the smooth. You can't be big-headed and
What, so you mean they kind of built you up to begin with in a way?
Yeah, they built you up to knock you down. That's what the British press always do to everybody. Yeah. They're good at doing that.
Yeah.
But I can't really, Graham. They made me famous. They made me a lot of money, so I'm not really grumbling about that. You know, sometimes you get a bit dodgy when they get involved in your private life, but you got to take the rough with the smooth, man. You can't get well paid, well looked after, and shouting your name all the time without taking
some stick.
Yes, some stick.
Yeah,
everybody gets a stick, no matter who.
Oh, I know. They may be infamous. No, I've had some time.
You look like you look like you enjoy it. But you're intelligent enough just to let water off a duck's back. I think
you just and it's the old thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even the nasty stuff.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's fish and chip paper.
Right.
People remember they've read about your name.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily remember what the details were and all the rest of it.
Right.
But Frank, what's interesting about this to me is that you've had these. I mean, how difficult was it for you to admit to yourself that you had a mental health problem? Was that a difficult thing to come to?
It was hard and difficult things because I was all right. The more they said I was getting mental problems, the more I was training and looking after myself a lot more better. I'm not used to taking the medication, drugs what they give you, and numb you down and make you put on weight, and you start dribbling and you don't recognise yourself. And then you ask them you don't want to go on that weight drug, but they put you on it. Take an injection through your backside, and you for nearly a month you're just dripping in.
Really, that bad?
Yeah, very, very bad.
God, dear.
Very bad, very terrible actually.
It sounds blooming awful.
It does. Take another sip of your beer.
No, I'm going to on that note. But Frank, what you've done?
Yeah.
I tell you what I think you've done. I think you've taken the downside of your life and this problem that you've had, and it's come back a couple of times, but every time you seem to be able to deal with it and sort it out. Maybe not easy, but you've kind of, I think what you've become now is you've turned a negative in your life around into being a positive. You know, 20 years ago, people didn't really want to talk about mental health at all. It was all too blooming difficult.
Shameful.
You know, too difficult, and a sense of shame. No, I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. But what you've done, and maybe you didn't have much choice being as famous as you were, but but you could have just hidden away for the rest of your life, but you haven't done that. You haven't done that. You've confronted this in public. You've talked about this. And from what I can see, you've tried to turn your problems around into being a positive with, the Frank Bruno Foundation and the work that you have tried to do. And I just wonder, on the big picture, every time there's a general election, one of the things that gets discussed is, of course, health in general. But about the last 3 general elections that I can remember, the issue of mental health services has come up as an issue, and those that are vying to be the heavyweight political champions, the Prime Minister, talk about mental health. They talk about we're going to do X, Y, Z for mental health services. I think we're failing people, aren't we?
They don't do nothing. The last time we went up to the House of Parliament, they brought a lot of people, sports people, business people, school teachers, etc., that said that they're going to help us and get involved with mental health. When they won the election, get in contact with us and just left by the side of the road. Want us to get involved with it at all.
I think a lot of people who really understand. And the NHS has got, heck of a difficult job to do. Your mum worked in it. Heck of a tough job to do. But I think most people think that mental health has become the poor relation of the NHS. Kind of not taken maybe as seriously as maybe it should be.
It should be, so definitely.
Explain to us, what are you doing? What are you trying to do with the Frank Bruno Foundation?
I'm trying to get the foundation up and going, and the people to do a 12-week course. That they're learning about mental health, learning about themselves, because most of the people what we're dealing with ain't been at their house in 12 months. They've been very, very scared, very, very nervous of coming out. And there's all different things, schizophrenia, bipolar, all different things out there what people are suffering from.
So do you think, look, back in 2020, it didn't even happen during the war, but we were locked down by government.
Scary.
You know, fear of this virus. I mean, when we had massive flu outbreak in 1968, I'm sure you remember it, you know, it was bad, but people kind of got on with their lives as best they could. They took precautions. We were locked down. And I can't imagine there's ever been a period of such loneliness.
Yeah, it was scary.
As people went through. I mean, how did you find it?
It was very, very hard. When you say don't go out of your house, don't, you know what I mean, be careful where you go, wear a mask, be careful who you deal with. Yeah, it was very, very scary. I got two injections in my arm, and I feel them now. They just in your shoulder.
Yeah.
And remember that like it was yesterday.
I think the damage, I think the long-term damage to all generations, actually, that lockdown has done is going to take some undoing.
As long as it don't come back.
Well, I suppose in the end, we'll overcome the harm that was done, but it might take us a very long time. So what's the plan with the Frank Bruno Foundation? Is it to raise money and
to raise money, help people, the local people come out. Some of them have been in their house, they haven't come out. Just help people going through a bad time with mental health.
Well, I think
we've got the gym there that they can come to, do some boxing training. It's all different sorts going on in the gym. It's a good organisation, the Frank Bruno Foundation, helping people going through mental health.
Are you getting good support for it?
Very, very good support. We need a little bit more corn, a little bit more money just to help, but not everybody else. But apart from that, it's going very well.
Well, I'll tell you what, I can't think actually seriously of a better advocate for this than you.
Yeah, thank you.
No, I really mean that.
I can see it.
You know, I really do mean that. And I think it's very, very, I think it's really important.
Thank you very much.
What you're doing and what you're fighting for.
Yeah.
Now, I wonder, apart from the Frank Bruno Foundation, you've been TV actor, you've been panto. I mean, they must have loved you in panto.
Duck and dive, Nigel. There's no duck and dive.
So what's the next big plan? You can't go back to boxing, obviously.
No, I can't go back to boxing. I've got a book coming out at the moment, so I'm trying to sell that. Just ducking and diving. Each day, go to the gym, try and look after yourself, and thank God when you get out. And
so this is 60 years. 60 years.
Yeah, 60 years of fire.
60 years of fire.
A ducker and diver. You're not far behind me, are you?
No, I'm not.
You're in front of me.
No, I'm just behind you. I'm just behind you.
No problem.
60 years of fighter. The book, all about Frank Bruno's life.
Right.
Is it all true?
Most of it's true.
Most of it's true.
I'm a politician. Most of it's true.
Well, I'm going to buy 60 Years of Fighter, but I'm going to...
I read one in the car.
But I'm going to get you to sign it. So if you haven't got one with you, we'll make sure we do it.
No problem.
And we'll ask people to buy it and people to read it. And Frank, just looking at boxing today.
Yeah.
You back in 96, and it was the second fight you had with Mike Tyson. And suddenly, because we've all been used to Freeview, everything was free. I wanted to watch the cricket, it was free on the telly. Now I have to blooming BT Sports or Sky. That's not enough. I've got to have Sky Sports as well and all the rest of it. But this is actually, in many ways, all your fault. You started it. No, absolutely. This is all your fault. Because you're fight.
Right, sir.
No, but your fight.
It's always my fault, isn't it?
So nobody mind. But your fight, that 96 fight against Mike Tyson, was a fight we had to pay to see.
Yeah, but...
And it was a concept we'd never really seen before. And it's now become commonplace, hasn't it? And yet, that reaped a lot of money, didn't it?
It does. That's business. Sometimes the Americans had it up and going.
Yeah.
In Europe, they had it up and going. So you just got to go with the flow. Britain had to have it up and going. It's a part of the society today to have all these different things. You know?
No, it is. We have
there's motor racing. There's snooker. There's golf. There's cricket. Ooh.
We have to pay for almost all of it now. In many ways, you were well ahead of this trend, and I'm teasing you a bit. But kind of boxing now, to watch the big fights now, you know, we're not just subscribed to Sky, but we got to be Sky Box Office and pay 15 quid or whatever it is. I mean, boxing has huge support still in this country.
Definitely.
You know, fanatical support. I don't think the support is as broad as it was because we haven't got it on terrestrial. But tell me, you know, and it's Fury, Tyson Fury, how good is he?
He's very, very good. He's got himself together. He was in a bad place. and he pulled himself together. And I've got to fly the flag with him because he's got himself in some serious mental health issues, and he's come through it. Yeah. And he's flying the flag. He helps the Frank Bruno Foundation, so I thank God that he keeps well and he does well, and he keep on what he's doing, because he was in a dark place, similar like me.
Wasn't he?
If not a bit more worse than what I was in. Yeah.
How good a boxer is he?
He's a very good boxer.
Yeah. Is he going to hold that title for some time?
I hope he does. You know what I mean? I hope he does. I really do hope he does.
And at some point, he's got to fight the little Ukrainian Usk, hasn't he?
I think he's got to fight, but bullshit talks or whatever. You know, I don't know. They're waiting to see who can get the more money.
Yeah, it's going to be a funny one though, that, isn't it? With Fury being up there and Usk being down.
The funny thing about it, he'll be about 4 stone heavy than the guy.
Yeah.
It's very scary.
He's a good little boxer though, isn't he?
Very good fighter.
I watched him against Joshua.
Yeah, he's very, very stylish and fast.
Yeah.
Awkward southpaw, but he's a very good fighter.
And Frank, you look back at it all.
Right.
You look back at your 60 years on this planet.
Yeah.
And all the good things.
Yeah.
And all the bad things.
Right.
Do you feel happy?
I feel very, very happy. Some days you're a bit more miserable than others, but I'm happy because I'm alive. I'm still ducking and diving. I've got a good pension. That it was one of the best pensions you could have ever had. They had to stop it at a certain amount, but it gets, as years go on,
yep,
the price goes up, the pension goes up. So I'm very, very happy. I had a good master in teaching me how to, save money and
this is interesting because, you've talked about your manager and the role models that you've had in life.
Terry Laws I'm talking about.
Yeah. I mean, so often you see pop stars, footballers who don't have those senior people in their lives directing them.
You've got to listen, man. The most important for you, any youngster or gets involved in anything, listen to your elder and have respect, and they know how to duck and dive. Like, if someone had you behind them, they knew all the tricks, not being funny. You got to know how to duck and dive and know the tricks. But as a youngster, you got to soak that all up and use that on your way going up in life, as I did in boxing.
Yeah, and knowing who to respect.
Yeah,
knowing who to trust. Well, Frank Bruno, all I can say is what an absolute pleasure it is. And you know what? You've brought a lot of joy, a lot of laughter to a lot of people.
I'll try.
And you know what? I mean, Harry, and I still laugh when I think about it. Thank you for joining me.
Cheers, thank you.
What a pleasure.
Cheers, respect, boss.
Thank
Cheers.
you.